Welcome to Coach, a global community for coaching mastery.
Hello, dear friends. Welcome to another episode of Coach, Global Community for Coaching Mastery podcast. This is your host, Leo. I'm the co-founder of Coach. And as you know, in this podcast, we really dive into what it takes to coach with mastery, to be a master coach. What's it like to be a professional coach? And today I am really excited to have this conversation with somebody very experienced and very knowledgeable in so many areas of life, of career. So stay tuned for a rich conversation. So I have the pleasure to introduce Gitte Alexander, leadership coach. Hello, Gitte.
Hi, Leo. Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
Such a pleasure to have you. So I'm going to read a little introduction about Gitte. And as you know, the introductions, I really want to get it right, just because of the extensive richness and experience that Gitte brings today to us. So Gitte is a leadership coach with distinctive professional journey. Gitte began her career as a PR manager and quickly expanded her expertise across the broader communication field. For over 20 years, she held various roles in global DAX companies, excelling as both a manager and a leader, driving impactful strategies and guiding teams to success. However, her true passion led her to leave the corporate world, very brave, and fully dedicate herself to coaching, supporting and empowering leaders on their journey to success. I have so many questions, Gitte. But before I
Great, I'm
do,
here.
is there anything that you would like to add if you were to introduce yourself in your own words?
Okay, yeah. I mean, Leo, you captured my professional journey already pretty well. I mean, short and crisp. I'd like to add a few things. So first of all, it might seem that my career was a straightforward path, but I can tell you it wasn't. So however, and you mentioned it already, there was one common thread, and this was and still is my deep passion for understanding and working with people. And so learning how we humans tick has been always fascinating me. So since I studied philosophy, I've been really intrigued by the question how we create our worlds through our perceptions and the power of our language, the role of our language in this context. So, and a key aha moment for me, and I think a personal trigger for coaching was when I realized that we are the creators of our own world. And if this is the case, we have also all the power to change it. So we are not at the mercy of our circumstances. And, you know, driven by this curiosity, I started my first NLP training right after my studies at the Milton Erickson Institute in Heidelberg in Germany. By the way, I still live in Germany in the south of Frankfurt. So, and over the years, I did several coaching trainings here and there. And when it made sense, I integrated them in my managerial role. But I mean, I had always the dream one day I really want to work as an independent coach. So, helping people shine, supporting them to live a more fulfilled, happier, and healthier life was always a driving force. So, and by the way, I'm not just a human nature fan. I love nature as such, and let's say most of the species in there.
Wow. I just have to say your voice is incredible and the passion that you have, I felt every single word. That is incredible. So I heard a few things, passion for believing that we are creators,
Mhm.
really believing deeply in people and
Yeah.
in what is created, the environment that we live. So I'm curious, Gita, you said that that was one reason what made you switch to coaching, but that deep belief that we're creators. But what else? Just curious, what made you take that jump? You've spent so many years being a leader. and I imagine mastering leadership. What really made you make the switch?
Yeah, great question, Leo. I mean, my turning point came when I found myself working under very poor leadership. And you hear me breathing, right? It was a heavy one, and how original as well, right? So this leadership, it didn't just demotivate the team and myself also, big time, I tell you, but it created also frustration, non-attendance, and ultimately damaged also in the end the department's reputation. So, and although it was painful to experience, it was for me also a powerful reminder how crucial leadership qualities are. So a lack of good leadership can ripple through an organization and affecting not just, we know that, right? Not just morale, but also performance, health, and values. And I'm talking here also about financial values. So, but thankfully, I was privileged to work for and with truly inspiring leaders as well. So leaders who elevated team spirit, boosted performance, and achieved great success. And on top, they created a work environment where people had joy to work. And this is so important if we think about that joy is the number one source of strength, of human strength. So I could experience both sides of leadership and I learned from it. And although it was really tough to leave my job, the team, the people I loved, I mean, I knew now or never, this is my moment to pursue my vision and become a coach to help other leaders to create supportive, motivating environment where people really feel valued, inspired, and empowered to thrive. And so here I am. That's the story, how it happened, finally.
So it sounds like the challenge was the biggest gift.
Exactly. It was a blessing in disguise. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm curious, Gitte, so you mentioned you left because of a poor leadership. And obviously we're not going to point any fingers, but what are few attributes of poor leadership so, let's say, so negatively impactful that, have this all incredible negative ripple effect?
I mean, in this case, I mean, first of all, I strongly believe, and certainly not, I mean, putting the fingers on someone, but I think also sometimes it's when a leader is also, and I will come to, or we come to that later as well, when someone feels really overwhelmed, right? I mean, so many things leaders have to struggle with. Maybe also question own capabilities, right? And on top, I mean, sometimes it's also, and this, it's also, how can I express this the best way? It's really when someone is on one hand insecure in the job, but on the other hand, wants to be strong and has a big, let's put it that way, ego, right? And this is in a way a dangerous mix. So when it's about the leader only, and when the leader on the other hand is too weak to protect his own or her own people, and cannot really deal and manage with all the influences which are coming.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, again, I think to support people, to create a supportive environment, and to see that people can shine, and not myself as a leader. So the people are important, right? And I put them in front and I support them and see that they can develop, shine, that's getting out their best. I mean, that's really important. And if this is the opposite, that it's about the leader and his career and his power,
yeah, then that will create all those ripple effects. And I know, Gitte, you do work with so many leaders, right? From your own experience, you coaching experience, personal experience. I'm curious, are there any, let's say, common threads or let's say patterns that you see? What are some things that they are, struggling with right now?
So I think, I mean, leaders overall, and I mean, I think you work with leaders as well. So leaders today are facing an increasingly complex landscape. So certainly, depending on their roles and also on the company they're in, they have to tackle a lot of different challenges. Like I said, for example, now the different influences, right? For example, the impact of geopolitical tensions, rapid market shifts, economic instability, and at the same time, they have to manage global teams. They have the pressure from investors, shareholders, and deal with internal company politics. So, and change is their constant companion. So they try to keep all these balls up in the air and not talking about their desire to maintain their health and their personal lives as well. So, and as a result, it's no surprise. And I feel already the heaviness on my shoulders by mentioning these aspects. Many leaders come to my coaching feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, and even close to a burnout. And some struggle with sleeping issues and also, like I mentioned, maybe question their abilities.
Yeah.
And so there are different challenges. So I see, to answer your question, I see in my coaching topics around stress management, leadership development, also conflict resolution, and navigating through organizational change. So, and in the best case, coaching, and this is my approach, helps them to cope with the stress, gain new perspectives, deeper insights, or to explore and regulate their emotions, which is so important when you have such a high pressure environment, right? So as a result, in best case, they can again their creativity again, inner resources, and with that, regain clarity.
Yeah. Wow. You said something about managing stress and emotions. And oftentimes, what I see in corporate is that still, even today, emotions have no place. We pretend stress doesn't exist. We
Yeah.
just push it aside and we push through. I'm curious, but you did mention that comes up a lot in coaching. How does this factor impact your coaching?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's so true what you're mentioning, and I come to that maybe in a second. I would first of all say stress is, it's not a natural but an unavoidable part of leadership, right? It comes with it. Whether you talk about it or not, what you just said, and I completely agree. So at one point, it will comes with it. But we all know if negative stress goes unmanaged, it can lead to disengagement, a decline of well-being and performance, and ultimately lead to burnout. But just one remark, I think that coaching is not only about stress management, it's also about prevention, building emotional resilience, and like I just said, strengthening internal resources that help leaders to thrive in high pressure environments. So this certainly requires working with emotions and physical sensations. And coming back to what you said, sometimes in my sessions, I experience managers, and I personally also know, believe me, what I'm talking about, they struggle to explore these emotions. So they might take a while or training when I ask, where do you feel this anger in your body? Or where is the strength located? What color has this energy? So, but it's so understandable because, in their daily life, in their job, they focus on strategy, decision making, analysis. So all activities which primarily engage our left brain part. And in addition, and I agree, discussing feelings is still uncommon in many business settings. So I want to give you an example. I once worked with a client who wanted to reflect on his next career steps. This was his goal. Therefore, he came to coaching. And initially, he was hesitant when I explained that coaching involves working with emotions, geography, and embodiment. I do this I'm most of the time in the first session, in the discovery session. And so I didn't know really, he showed signs that he doesn't want to continue with coaching. But finally, he agreed under the condition that we are not working in his office, which he, in a way, purely associated with thinking, right? So there was literally no room for emotions. So we decided to go outdoors. And I think he had a wonderful intuition. So I will always remember there was one session, and we used, I'm not sure whether you know this, Walt Disney, um, this Walt Disney method. Does this ring a bell to you? Okay. So, I mean, you explore an idea or future possibilities from different perspectives. So the perspectives are a dreamer, a realist, and a critique. So, and he was standing on a rock during the dreamer phase, highly vividly imagined future possibilities, and it was so easy for him to explore the corresponding feelings. So getting out of a business environment might sometimes really a good possibility to help the clients to discover their emotions. So I personally think working with emotions is an essential part of coaching. Otherwise, it would be also maybe consulting. But my approach, like for many other leaders, and I expect also you, is a holistic one. So not addressing just the emotions and the physical sensations, but also the intellectual and sometimes also the spiritual part. And this helps the leaders to reconnect with all parts of themselves, bringing resonance and, in the end, maybe also authenticity.
Gitte, just one question on that is, what is the price leaders pay when they're disconnected from, let's say, they're only analytical or they're too emotional, which that's not the case probably. Like, let's say, yeah, what is the price they pay for not stepping or working with their emotions, feeling more?
Yeah, I mean, I would say really that, I mean, when we have all parts integrated, like I said, we feel resonance and we feel strength and we feel confident. So when we exclude certain parts, we are not whole, right? So we are not complete, let's put it that way.
And when the
So
leader doesn't feel complete, how is that impacting his team or her team?
I think what I said, the authenticity part. So when he includes, or let's say also he is excluding completely the emotions and just really focus on the, what we say, the logical aspects of it, intellectual. I think that, I mean, people feel that, right? They cannot really connect. So the connection is missing when there's, and I would also say empathy is missing at the end, right? So therefore, to have the access to emotions who also give guidance, emotions and intuitions as well. I mean, intuition is a wise guider. It helps us, right, to sometimes also take right decisions. So I think for leaders, it's really important to have the connection to all the different aspects.
Yeah. So it sounds like they are selling themselves short when they exclude emotions from their day to day. It sounds like their decision making, their leadership, their impact, their influence, their charisma, their ability to inspire is diminished.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think people feel that. And I mean, I know from leaders who really then also, I mean, try to show this empathy and to connect to their feelings. And I mean, still it's tough because I mean, people feel whether this is authentic or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And therefore it's so key, I think, that the leaders in coaching also make the experience that they really can connect to their emotions and not just prevent it in the end, right?
Wow, that is beautiful. So connect to your emotions, don't prevent. That is very, very powerful. And Gitte, I know you're a multidisciplinary coach. You mentioned you are is certified in NLP. I know you're also a coactive coach. So I'm curious what other tools you use in your coaching, and how does that help you support your clients?
Okay. So as you rightly said, I mean, in my session, I use coactive coaching techniques from NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming, and wave. It's maybe the most uncommon one. And I certainly adapt this method based on the specific challenges my clients face. So sometimes I decide spontaneously which method to take within a session, or I plan it. But I can say that, I think it's right to say that coactive is my core approach. I strongly resonate with one of the fundamental beliefs, and this is that people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. And this simply means that clients are capable, so that they already have all the solutions within themselves. And my role as a coach, let's say based on conversation, is to help them to tap into their inner wisdom. So certainly with using different skills, tools, and principles, yeah. So, but for me, coactive coaching is an art of coaching. It's creative, sometimes fun for the client and the coach, and sometimes also even magical. But for example, when I notice there is, let's say, an ongoing pattern or a limiting belief that's constantly showing up, and it's so persistent that it's holding back my client from reaching the next level of development, I also incorporate NLP techniques such as rebranding or change history. This is timeline work. I don't go into details. I think this would go too far. But I mean, in a nutshell, I mean, what these methods are strong with is that they shift this belief. So they clear out the path so that the client, so to say, can continue to work. And yeah, so I take this tool also from time to time, as well as wave. And wave is really an interesting method. It's a neuroscience-based method that combines artificially generated rapid eye movements. Also, as a coach, you generate these eye movements with the client, and it's combined with NLP and muscle testing. So the ring test from kinesiology. So originally wave is known as EMDR, meaning eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it's very common in common practice in trauma therapy. So wave is effective for emotion coaching in all aspects. And I use it sometimes if to identify, let's say, spot-on blockades. So helping the clients to reduce persistent stress. Once I worked with a manager who came to me, and he had really a kind of issue with one of his employees, and he didn't understand why, because she was really a top performer, and I mean, everything should be all right. But during a wave session, we discovered that the stress trigger was her voice. So, and this was rooted back to, and we found it out during the process, this rooted back to fear because, or let's say to a voice of a teacher he had in primary school, and this teacher didn't treat him very nicely, so very poor. So he was afraid. So the emotion behind was fear. And when we found this original situation and emotion, we worked with the waving part and muscle testing and so forth until it was okay. Then the test holds strong. And from that moment on, the situation with the employee improved. So sometimes it can be so simple like that.
Wow.
So it's really a highly
Sounds
effective.
simple. You make it
Yeah.
sound simple, but it's not that simple.
No, it's not that simple. Certainly also, I mean, this is a process and you have really to identify, but it's a kind of short-term coaching method, very powerful. But you know, I mean, I mean, as great as all these methods are, I think the true driver for coaching success, and I don't know whether you agree, is the relationship between the client and the coach. So the connection, the energy, it's like it's creating a new entity in the room. Yeah. And this is what really, I mean, I would say makes the difference in the end.
Wow. Um, there's so much in what you shared, and what I'm hearing is that it's almost like you truly identified different blockages or places that your clients would get stuck, and you just went and deepened that. What an amazing array of tools that you have, so you can help him and here and there and in tiny, and together is just you take them on an incredible journey. I'm just curious about the wing method.
Wave.
Wing waves, yes, thank you so much. So can you coach somebody on that method only in person, or it can be done online as well?
It can be done online as well. There's a method, for example, with the tapping method, for example, right? So it's also possible online. Yes, you can do that.
Wow.
I mean, so far, I have to admit, most of the time I did it physically, but you can also in on site with people, but you can really do it also online. It's possible, yes.
So truly no limitation, no limits to that.
No, no.
Wow. It's incredible because the outreach right now is massive. We can reach anybody anywhere, and it's very reassuring to hear that all these methods can be received by the coachee online as well.
So important, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Gitte, and we're going to take a sharp left here. One of the topics that I often hear is work-life balance, and I'm sure in your coaching you hear it all the time.
Mhm.
I'm curious, what is your approach to that topic?
I mean, certainly. I mean, work-life balance is a recurring topic for many of my clients. And I experience in my sessions that especially young managers are often struggling to balance their career with family commitments. So it's so understandable because their ambitions, they want to excel professionally, but at the same time, they have small kids and want to be present for their families. So this situation is certainly also very often accompanied by feeling guilty or feeling not being able to do justice to anything or anyone. And I mean, the shortest time certainly remains to themselves. So, right. So in the meantime, I use the word or term work-life integration instead of work-life balance. So simply because, or the reason is the idea of balance already creates stress because it suggests an equal split of time and energy in all areas, which is absolutely not realistic. So there is simply no balance, especially for important leadership roles. So instead, I work with the clients how work and life can support each other. So when a leader, for example, align their, and this is now high level speaking, right? When leaders, for example, align their professional goals with their values, they become more fulfilled, and this has a positive impact on both areas, on several areas. Or let me give you another example. I mean, a nice way to work on this for me is also the NLP technique, which is called negotiation reframing. The purpose here is to find the good intentions and the resources of both sides, also the overlaps, and finally create synergies. So it's creating harmony between the two rather than seeing them as competing forces. I mean, personally, I think this is the better approach because, again, it's not possible to balance.
Yeah. I agree with you completely. This word balance just comes with so many expectations, and I often see it's a saboteur, the word itself, looking for
Sure.
that perfection of separating, but nothing is perfect, and that's so beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Mhm.
Gitte, I'm curious. I'm sure you have so many transformational stories. I have no doubt. Uh, just for our listeners, for our viewers, do you have a one memorable story where working with you, you've seen them transformed or their impact transformed?
Mhm. Yeah, I have one, and this is one of my highlights. It's the story of a CEO I worked with, and by the way, he is a reference, and therefore I can mention this case a bit more in detail. So he worked in a fast-paced tech startup, juggling multiple roles from strategy development to content creation, while dealing with a demanding micromanaging boss. So everything was urgent for him. And on top, he faced intense pressure from investors. So every quarter, it was under discussion whether they have to lay off people or to shut down the business. So in addition, also, he faced some financial issues privately. So when I saw him the first time, he felt overwhelmed. And his insomnia was worsening, and he was really on a bad edge to the burnout, to a burnout. So, and for weeks we worked on various topics, but the real breakthrough I will always remember came during a coactive coaching session where he explored his life purpose, he connected to his values, and had a dialogue with his inner, wise inner voice. So we call it the inner leader. And in a moment of complete resonance, and I could see this in his face and the body language, he felt his strength, energy, and confidence. And suddenly, I mean, it became so crystal clear for him. And he gained and expressed the strong sense that he was in the wrong environment and the desire to change his professional life despite, and this was a huge step, despite his financial situation. So because before there was always, yeah, but I can't, right? Because I have privately this financial pressure. So from this point on, we worked in other sessions on his vision. He defined an action plan with milestones and actions, I mean, for a soft exit. And in the meantime, I mean, he works as a freelancer, as a consultant, and even launched a project aligned with his passion and core values. And since then, he said, I mean, sleeping issues disappeared and he feels more fulfilled. So this was really a story where I could see that transformation happened and really brought a completely change in the life of someone. Starting from being exhausted and don't know what to do to in the end really feeling fulfilled and do what, I mean, he really is passionate about it. And I'm really happy for him that it worked that way. It's certainly not always like this, right? But it can happen, and that's beautiful if this is the case.
That is an incredible story. Incredible. Thank you for sharing. As they say, when you live your purpose, you don't get sick, you don't age, you don't stress, because you finally live your truth.
It's true,
Isn't
yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful. It's a secret, right? It's a kind of secret. And when you tap into this secret and can explore it, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it really, really, really is. And Gitte, I'm curious. So after a transformation like that,
Mhm.
and we know life happens, people go back to their life, back to the same circumstances, same people, same stressors, whatever. How do you ensure that after coaching with you, is there any way you support leaders, you continue? What are you doing to ensure that continuous growth?
I mean, I see coaching as a continuous journey. In a way, also for me, it never stops. So sometimes transformation can happen in the session. I mean, like I just reported, right, of the CRO, the corrective session. So, I mean, these are this kind of aha moments for I mean, we love them as coaches, right? But more often they occur in between sessions. As clients, I mean, integrate insights into their daily lives, or even after the end of a coaching engagement. So ultimately, it's up to the client to continue working on these different topics after coaching ends. However, I have observed, and maybe you can confirm that once a client experiences the power of coaching and start to change, they might continue with self-reflection and accountability on their own. So I often think of coaching like pushing a domino. So the first insights set off a chain reaction where every action, no matter how small it is, contributes beautifully to their larger journey of growth. So it's a process. And when you start it, I think, and you recognize it's working, I think you continue.
Yeah, I love that metaphor of pushing one domino as the chain reaction. It just that was so powerful, and yeah, I totally see it. Yeah, Gitte, let's imagine you have the opportunity to give one piece of advice, of wisdom, of knowledge to everyone, to your clients, to people who watch this, to the world in general. What would it be?
I mean, I would say sometimes, and this is not true only for leaders, right? We sometimes face situations where we feel overwhelmed, stressed, feel stuck, or kind of discomfort. And I think it's important to see, or that to look at it, that these are not signs of failure or weakness. They are opportunities for growth. And this kind of reframing is key. And what I also would say, like in the example of the CRO, step back, and we just mentioned it as well. I mean, step back, reconnect with your core values, with your purpose and your inner voice, or maybe also an inner team. Sometimes we have also more than one wise voice, we have an entire team. So connect with these parts. And I think by recentering on purpose, feelings of overwhelm can really transform into clarity and direction. So that would be my advice. But the first step, again, like I said, so reframing is important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I'll take some pieces of that advice to myself as well. So I appreciate it. Gitte, and wow, time really flew by. And before I ask my last question, where is the best place for people to connect with you?
I mean, right now, Leo, it's really on LinkedIn. My website is under construction. So, I mean, everyone who wants to reach me, feel free. I mean, reach out on LinkedIn, send me a message. And usually I'm pretty responsive. So,
Great. So whatever you watch this, you'll have a link to Gitte's profile on LinkedIn. So do get in touch to experience that magic in coaching. And my last question is, Gitte, what is your vision for the future of leadership coaching?
That's a good question. So, I mean, my vision of leadership coaching is that it will become a standard part of every leader's development. because I think the leaders of tomorrow will need to be even more capable of navigating through rapid change, especially also with the rise of new technologies, talking about AI. So coaching will be crucial in helping to develop qualities and build even more resilience and innovative and successful organizations. And there is a quote from a former German CEO, bank CEO, and he said that in the end, all economic problems are personal problems, so people problems. And therefore, I think he's right. And therefore, I think that leaders can really make all the difference.
Yeah. Wow. And with that, we change the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so true. Mhm.
What a beautiful note and hopeful note to end this conversation, Gitte, because in this world with all the changes that we have right now, we truly need that ray of light, that hope that
So true.
something good is going to happen in the world.
Yeah.
So,
Like I said, we need that. Yeah, that's so true.
yeah.
Mhm.
Gitte, thank you so much for this very deep, transformational, informational conversation. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you for being in this conversation with me.
Thank you, Leo. I thank you. It was great being here, and it was such a pleasure to talk to you, to seeing you. So thank you so much. Mhm.
Appreciate you. For everybody watching this episode, if you would like again to reach out to Gitte, you will have the links around this video. And until next time, take good care of yourself and see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This recording was offered to you by Coach, a global community for coaching mastery.